season, be back with part 2 of the Rope Hustle. Take a breather, though, right now. Sit down and relax. I want to talk to you about disco shoes, disco shirts, disco music, disco clubs, disco mania. I want you to meet Sonny Joe White, who is a DJ at WILD Radio, and we also have Lee Grove from the University of Massachusetts as a freelance writer also. Gentlemen, the disco scene. Sonny, you program soul music, rock music, disco music. How do you read the difference in the disco scene between, say, the rock scene?
The disco scene is a scene. It, encompasses a lot more than just music. It encompasses a feeling of people letting tension off. It encompasses the whole light shows that go with the discos of the 70s. It's a brand new scene that's quite different from rock, jazz, and soul. Disco is now a completely different category from all of those, and it's a new category.
Well, the rock was certainly a scene also, in the sense that it represented a style and a whole attitude way beyond the music, too, right?
Yeah.
What does the disco scene now say about where we're at in the 70s?
It says that people are now happy again. We went through the 60s when we had all the wars and the morals changing, and now we're at a point where people are glad to dance again. They're glad that they're in America. They're glad to be here, period. So they're letting it out by dancing.
It's a good feel, in other words. Lee, I can't help but feel a little cynicism on my part.
I think it's hyped up. I think there are just too many, and there are some of them out here, El Serioso disco dancers. And you see on the TV, car commercials and disco music is playing in the background. You walk into grocery stores and there's disco music.
Well, it's commercial, but is it a fad? If nothing wrong with it being commercial, but do you see it as a fad?
I think it's infected with faddishness now. I'm finding that it's just so hyped up in the media that I'm getting tired of it. And I used to love to go to them. I still like to. But now they're just jammed with people, and I'm just finding that we're just, drowning in disco.
All right, but from Lee Grove's point of view, we're drowning in it. But from the popular point of view, do you think it's going to die out, or do you think it's going to hang around for a while?
Well, it's as serious and crazy and frivolous as sex.
I think it's something.
I think it will stay.
Yeah, I think it's something that will be around. It's been around for a while. I remember in the 70s, early 70s, when I was doing disco, when I was going to the clubs in New York, and I was dancing to a record called Soul Makossa. That is now a disco classic. Disco's been around for a long time. The gay disco scene, which is probably the initial scene to what we're visualizing now in the disco world, I think it all happened in the early gay clubs, and now it's coming out. It's coming out of the closet, so to speak. And it's going to be around for a long time. It's been around. Dance music goes back as far back as the twist.
Disco apparently has a lot of its roots in Europe. The gay community picked it up here in the States first, and it sprung out from there?
I really can't pinpoint where it was picked up. I do know that people have been dancing for a long time. The Philadelphia dance scene was quite big with the Dick Clark days. The sock hops in Philadelphia were one of the biggest disco scenes, and they're still big, and they will be big, I think, 10 years from now.
Gay discos were always tootling around in the 60s.
Yeah.
And I think certainly the gay discotheque scene was probably a lot more brazen about the disco arena as a sort of foreplay to what was to come afterwards. And now you see a kind of courtship, I think, taking place in all discotheques.
Well, I think John Travolta and the whole Saturday Night Fever scene has a lot to do with the way that we're, getting into disco now. Disco is finally hitting the suburbs. And when it hits the suburbs, and it encompasses the masses. And I think now everybody's getting a chance because of Saturday Night Fever to see what all this excitement about disco is.
What do you think Travolta represents?
I don't think Travolta represents what disco is to a lot of people. I think Travolta could have easily been the king of a football team. He could have been a quarterback for a football team, and the show still could have been the same. I think the show represents a guy who's an underdog who gets on top by dancing. It could have easily been a quarterback who's an underdog, and he's the best quarterback in town.
Yeah, but I don't think you've seen any Travoltas on the dance floor, usually in regular disco clubs. I mean, John Travolta does not come out like Moses on the floor, and then all these waves of disco dancers, just parts of Moses and Miss Moses, can do their routine. It doesn't happen. It's happening down here. Where did you get these dancers?
It's the American people. They're out enjoying themselves. Do you see this? There was an article in Esquire magazine that referred to there ought to be a statue of Narcissus in front of every discotheque. In other words, that this is beyond a form of self-expression. It's just a bunch of people showing off. If so, first of all, do either of you agree with that, and do you see anything wrong with that? This is a form of self-expression of the 70s, is what Sonny was saying earlier.
I don't think there's anything wrong with people enjoying themselves. I think that there's a new way to present the disco music or to present this new dance music, and that's what the whole scene is about. The lights, the beat, all of it comes together to create a new scene.
Sonny says they're looking for self-expression in a form of enjoyment. You're cynical about it, Lee. Nevertheless, what do you think the American populace is getting off to when they're out there? Because they are enjoying themselves.
I still love it, but I still also see it as being very exhibitionistic.
Is that
and voyeuristic? No. But in a way, I feel as though we've come back to the 50s. There's a lot of disco dancing today that's very homogenized. The partner routines. I feel that the girls, women, are just as disposable as dancers as they were in the 50s. I mean, John Travolta, he's our star, our disco star, and here he is starring in Grease, penultimate 50s movies. I mean, I see him as our sort of 50s motorcycle punk with more than a little dab of Brill Cream. But
so you see disco ultimately as a reversion back to the 50s. Do you see it as a step forward, Sonny?
I don't see it as a step. Yeah, I do. I take that back. I do see it as a step forward in that it's been around for a long time, dance music, and now it's getting exposed to the masses, which proves it's not just a fad. I think that in itself proves that it's no longer a fad, and it will be around for another 10 years.
It's like skateboarding. I mean, I remember being on a skateboard in the late 50s, and then it just died out totally. And now, skateboards have come back, but now what do? You have to have knee pads and shoulder pads and elbow pads and the whole works. I mean, it's there permanently as a form of movement.
Let me ask you, just, I don't want to be quickly though, it seems to be a true mix of people, Latin, black, gay, straights. Is that accurate?
Yeah, I think so.
Very.
That can't be all bad. That's going to
No, it's wonderful.
It's not bad. I would never say it's bad. It's the greatest thing that happened to music, I think.
Okay, Lee Grove, Sonny Joe White, thanks very much for joining us on Dance and Disco.
See ya.
Right now, back, up on your feet, folks. Randy Dietz is back with part 2 of the Rope Hustle. Randy?